You're looking around at like our cities and all our technology and everything, that humans are kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild to think we've only been around for like a blink of an eye, cosmically speaking.
Yeah.
So today's deep dive is going to be all about how we went from just another ape to the rulers of the planet, and we're using Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens as our guide.
Great.
We've got excerpts right from the source, plus some extra juicy bits from a podcast that we really dug into.
Yeah. What I find so fascinating about Harari's work is how he really dismantles this common misconception we all have of human evolution as this straight line,
Right.
From ape to us.
Yeah.
It was way messier than that and way more interesting.
Yeah, like that classic image we've all seen a million times of that hunched over ape slowly straightening up until, boom, he's wearing a suit.
Exactly.
But Harari blows that out of the water by introducing us to all these other humans who were around at the same time.
Right.
Like Neanderthals and Homo floresiens, so like the whole gang's here.
It's true.
Like a prehistoric party we weren't invited to.
Yeah.
So what happened? Where did all these other humans go?
Well, that is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And Harari presents these two main theories. One is interbreeding.
Okay.
So this idea that Homo sapiens basically just absorbed these other species over time through, let's just say, close encounters.
Interesting.
And the evidence for that is actually in your DNA. Did you know that recent genetic studies suggest that a lot of humans alive today actually carry Neanderthal genes?
Get out.
Yeah, a little souvenir from our evolutionary past.
Wow, that's so wild. I might be part Neanderthal. That explains so much.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Okay, so that's one theory. But there's another one, right? And this one's a little more dramatic.
Yeah, this is the replacement theory, and it proposes a much less harmonious scenario.
Okay.
This one suggests that Homo sapiens, with our more advanced tools or social structures, may have actually outcompeted these other human species for resources and eventually drove them to extinction.
See, that's kind of a sobering thought, because we like to think of ourselves as, this enlightened species. But what if our rise to the top came at the expense of our closest relatives?
It really makes you think.
It adds a whole other layer of complexity to human history, for sure.
It does. And Harari doesn't shy away from that complexity at all.
Yeah.
He presents the evidence and the arguments, and he kind of invites us to grapple with these uncomfortable possibilities. It's a good reminder that history is not always a neat and tidy narrative.
It's way more like a detective story where we're still trying to figure out all the clues.
It really is.
And speaking of mysteries, Harari throws another curveball our way. The cognitive revolution.
Yeah.
So around 70,000 years ago, something incredible happened to Homo sapiens. We're talking a sudden burst of innovation and migration are complex tools. It's like our ancestors hit fast forward on their evolutionary journey.
Right. Imagine like for hundreds of thousands of years, not much changes.
Yeah.
And then relatively speaking, in the blink of an eye, Homo sapiens go from basic tools and survival to something that starts to resemble like early forms of culture and technology.
So what triggered that? What was the secret sauce in the Homo sapiens recipe for success?
Well, Harari points to language as the game changer. And not just any language, but our very unique ability to communicate complex ideas, to discuss things that don't physically exist.
Oh.
Animals can communicate about basic needs, but they don't tell stories about gods or nations or, well, money.
Wait, are you saying money isn't real? I mean, I know it's not everything, but still.
Well, think about it. It's a shared fiction.
Sure.
We've all agreed to believe in the value that we give this piece of paper or, this digital currency.
Right.
And that's precisely what makes it so powerful. This ability to unite around these common myths is what sets us apart from every other species.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of large-scale cooperation.
So you're saying our ability to create and believe in stories, even if they're fictional, is what allowed us to build empires and societies.
Exactly. It's the glue that holds everything together. Why would you pay taxes if you didn't believe in the concept of a nation or a government?
Right.
Why would you follow laws if you didn't buy into this shared story of your society?
That's a really good point.
These common myths, as Harari calls them, are these invisible forces that shape our world.
This is blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So language wasn't just the way to communicate. It was like unlocking this superpower. The ability to cooperate on this massive scale and to dominate the planet.
It's true.
But hold on, there's another twist in the story, right? The agricultural revolution.
Ah, yes. The moment our ancestors decided to swap their hunter-gatherer hats for, well, farming tools.
Right.
And this is where things get really complex.
Okay, farming.
Yeah.
Not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when I think global domination. In fact, when you compare it to like the hunter-gatherer lifestyle,
Yeah.
it almost sounds like a downgrade, right? Like less variety in your diet, way more backbreaking work. What made our ancestors sign up for that?
Well, that's the paradox that Harari lays out so brilliantly.
Okay.
On the surface, it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But the key is what you touched on earlier.
Okay.
The power of those shared myths.
Right.
Combined with a revolutionary new development surplus.
So instead of just like chasing down enough food to survive, you've got storehouses full of grain.
Exactly.
But how does that change everything?
Well, imagine this. For most of human history, everyone's focused on finding food.
Right.
And then thanks to agriculture, you can produce more than you immediately need.
Okay.
So suddenly, some people can specialize in other things.
Oh, so you get like artisans and priests and warriors.
Exactly. You get specialized labor for the first time.
And scribes.
Uh,
Someone's got to keep track of all that surplus grain, right?
Precisely. This is where we see the rise of writing. Again, thanks to those Sumerians around 3000 BC.
Of course, the Sumerians.
They start scratching these transactions on clay tablets, and boom, you have the beginnings of record keeping, accounting, the ability to manage these increasingly complex societies.
Wow. It's amazing how something as like simple as writing can be such a huge game changer.
Absolutely, because alongside writing, you have the emergence of money.
Oh, right.
Remember those common myths we talked about?
Yeah.
Money is a prime example.
Okay.
We agree to give these pieces of paper or these digital tokens value because we all believe in the system.
Right. It's all made up.
It's brilliant, really.
Yeah. And way more practical than trading a cow for a clay pot every time you go to market.
Right, exactly.
But with these like bigger, more complex societies, things must have gotten a little tricky to manage.
Yeah.
I imagine there were disputes over land and resources and, who gets the best clay pots.
Exactly. Disputes inevitably arise.
Yeah.
And this leads to the development of another common myth that's still with us today, laws.
Okay.
So around 1750 BC, the Babylonian king Hammurabi creates what we now call the Code of Hammurabi. This set of rules covering everything from trade to family matters.
So from figuring out how to store grain, we've gone to creating legal systems.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
All thanks to our ability to cooperate and believe in shared stories.
Exactly.
It really makes you appreciate how crucial those things are to civilization.
Absolutely. But maintaining these sprawling empires, while that required more than just laws and grain.
Okay.
It required something to unite people, to give them a shared identity and purpose.
Enter organized religion.
Precisely.
Okay.
Religion, with its powerful narratives and moral codes, played a crucial role in holding these vast societies together.
Right.
It provided a framework for understanding the world.
Yeah.
For explaining everything from natural phenomena to the hierarchy of power.
So it wasn't just like, pay your taxes or the gods will be angry, although I'm sure that didn't hurt.
Right, of course.
But it's about creating this shared belief system that gave people a sense of belonging and order.
Exactly.
In a world that was becoming increasingly complex.
You've got it. But as with all things in history, change is inevitable. And around the 16th century, a new way of thinking began to challenge the old ways. The scientific revolution.
From believing in stories to testing them.
Exactly.
And what's so fascinating is that this wasn't just about like new discoveries. It was a whole new approach to understanding the world.
It really was.
Instead of just relying on tradition or, religious dogma, you have people like Galileo and Newton saying, let's see what happens if.
And what happens when you start asking, what if?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you get challenges to these long-held beliefs.
Sure.
New inventions.
Okay.
A thirst for knowledge that pushes the boundaries of human understanding.
Right. Like humanity collectively decided to put on its explorer hat.
Yes.
Both literally and metaphorically.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, think about Columbus's voyage in 1492.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was looking for a new route to the east. But it was fueled by this, like, spirit of scientific inquiry.
Right.
This desire to map the world and test the limits of what was known.
And that spirit of exploration intertwined with the economic ambitions of, these European powers.
Yeah.
Ushered in a new era of globalization and colonialism.
Right.
It's a complex and often troubling chapter in human history.
For sure.
One that continues to shape the world we live in today.
It's incredible how Harari connects those dots.
It really is.
Showing how, one era flows into the next. From the invention of writing to the age of exploration.
Yeah.
It's like this domino effect with each event leading to the next.
And this brings us to a crucial question that Harari poses. Has all this progress, all this technological advancement and societal complexity actually made us happier.
So we've gone from like hunting and gathering to building these massive empires.
Right.
From like decoding the laws of physics to launching satellites into space.
It's incredible.
Thousands of years of progress.
Right.
But are we any happier?
Uh-huh.
I have a feeling it's not as simple as like, well, we have smartphones now, so we must be having a blast.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's not really how it works.
I bet.
It's this idea that Harari explores about how progress doesn't necessarily equal happiness.
Oh, okay.
And he dives into this concept of subjective well-being,
Okay.
which is basically how much joy or contentment are you feeling personally?
Right.
And here's the thing. Despite all of our advancements, there's no clear evidence that people today are inherently happier than they were centuries ago, even millennia ago.
Really? So you're telling me like someone carving their dinner off a woolly mammoth bone was just as content as I am ordering takeout with a couple taps on my phone?
It's hard to imagine, I know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what the research suggests.
Wow.
Our brains are wired with this kind of happiness baseline. Think of it like a thermostat.
Okay.
You might get some highs and lows, but we tend to return to our like set point over time.
So even if I won the lottery tomorrow, all that excitement would eventually fade and I just go back to feeling like myself.
Exactly.
Just with a much nicer bank balance.
Right, exactly. Our brains are really adaptable.
Right.
We acclimate to new circumstances, whether it's a windfall of cash or some kind of setback, and our overall sense of well-being kind of recalibrates.
So that's good to know,
Yeah?
especially in tough times.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder if our happiness levels aren't, skyrocketing along with all this technological progress. It does make you question, what's the point of it all?
That's the million-dollar question that Harari kind of leaves us with.
Yeah.
He doesn't give us easy answers,
Right.
but he does highlight this really crucial point.
What's that?
Progress isn't evenly distributed.
Right.
So while some people enjoy all the amazing fruits of these technological advancements, other people are left behind facing poverty and inequality and, the consequences of environmental degradation and things like that.
It's a really good point that progress for some shouldn't come at the expense of others.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here? If we're kind of hardwired for this happiness baseline, is there any point to even like striving for a better future?
Well, Harari argues that understanding our limitations is really key to making informed choices.
Okay.
He says we should be focusing on creating a future that prioritizes well-being for everyone,
Right.
not just the privileged few.
Makes sense.
And this is where things get really interesting. He points to fields like biotechnology and artificial intelligence as these potential game changers.
Okay.
Things that offer us this amazing ability to reshape humanity in really profound ways.
So are we talking like designer babies, immortality, uploading our consciousness into the cloud?
Well, Harari introduces this really fascinating concept called the Gilgamesh Project.
Right.
It's named after this ancient Mesopotamian king who was searching for eternal life.
Right.
And he argues that we're already on this path to altering our own biology. Yeah, from gene editing to life extension technologies.
So we could be witnessing the end of Homo sapiens as we know it.
It's possible. And the dawn of something totally new.
That's both exhilarating and terrifying at the same time.
Right.
It's like we're standing on the edge of this whole new chapter in human history, and we're the ones writing it.
And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Harari wants us to remember that we have a responsibility to consider the ethical implications of our choices and to try to steer this ship towards a future that's beneficial for all of humanity.
It's a powerful message, and it feels incredibly relevant right now as we're dealing with climate change and AI and this ever-growing gap between the haves and have-nots.
Absolutely.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I need to go back and reread Sapiens now with fresh eyes.
It's a journey worth taking, for sure.
It is.
To understand our past and to help shape our future.
Absolutely. And if you're listening, and we know you are,
Right.
let us know what kind of future you envision for humanity.
Yeah. What does progress mean to you?
What are the big questions that we should be asking as we stand on the cusp of this, whatever comes next? Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Here, here.